You ever caught yourself drooling over a $1,500 optic or a titanium bolt carrier group thinking, man, this is the thing that's gonna take my marksmanship to the next level? Yeah, me too. Here's the truth though, guys. It's always the violinist and never the violin. Last year I watched a buddy drop $3,000 on a decked out AR, swearing up and down that it'd make him a better shooter. Spoiler, he still couldn't hit the broadside of a barn at 50 yards. Meanwhile, there's a rookie on the range with a beat up PSA that was hitting the A zone and nailing his speed reloads. I've been in the shooting industry since the days of Magpul Dynamics and the birth of Bunker Tactical. When someone says, hey, do you know who the gas guy is? I say,
well, of course I know him. He's me.
Whenever a new product hits the market, I'm one of the guys on Soldier Systems and the Firearms blog or the Truth About Guns consuming article after press release about the equipment, trying to find out if it's something that I need to immediately slap on my next rifle build. Let me tell you who the gas guy is real quick. If you're into electric guitar or bass, you've probably heard this term already. The gas guy is your buddy who compulsively buys product after product, tinkering with his firearms, thinking it's the ticket to shaving his split times down and getting out of C-class at his next USPSA match. But guys, just like adding a wah pedal to your board isn't gonna make you sound like Kirk Hammett in the 1990s, the real trick to building your shooting skills isn't adding your 15th upgrade to your rifle. It's getting out to the range and actually practicing that's gonna make the most progress for you. I've got entire boxes of unused parts and optics in my garage at home, and I've built a large number of firearms projects over the years. But here's the kicker, guys. I've sold my fair share of those firearms after overbuilding them because I found out they weren't exactly what I wanted or they weren't exactly what I needed to solve the problem that I was having at the time. Today, we're gonna take this base model Radical Firearms AR-15, which can be found all over the internet for about $450, and we're gonna let my inner gas guy get loose so I can make a point to you. So this is a solid budget-friendly rifle, guys, that anyone could get pretty proficient on as a beginner or even as an intermediate shooter. We're gonna upgrade it to the point of absurdity today. But first, let's talk about the traps people fall into when they're going down this path of upgrading an existing rifle. Gear acquisition syndrome, GAS. Man, it's that itch to keep buying new gear and continue upgrading your build, thinking that each new part is gonna transform your shooting. Well, let's be real, you're internet clout. It's real, it's expensive, and it's fueled by Instagram, YouTube, and peer pressure from gun store counters that want you to keep buying the latest and greatest and 1% improved equipment with Gucci bag roll marks. We all know Gas Guy. He's got a $7,000 AR-15 with an IR-capable laser and no night vision, a bipod, 16 laser-engraved Punisher skull rail covers, and a high-dollar optic that costs more than his car. Guys, he's chasing perfection and clout, but he doesn't shoot any better than a guy with a $700 rifle because he doesn't want to get out to the range and start training seriously until he has a serious rifle that he and other shooters would like on Instagram. Why? Guys, it's diminishing returns, not actually getting out to the range and running his $7,000 rifle, and letting other people's opinion of his setup impact his ability to actually get out to the range and get after it. The law of diminishing returns is when each upgrade gives you less improvement for more money. It's a principle stating that profits or benefits gained from something will represent a proportionally smaller gain as more money or energy is invested in it. Anyone in any hobby has seen this at some point. Guys, a $200 red dot when you're running flip-up irons, that's a huge upgrade regardless of the brand name on the optics box. But step that up to an $800 red dot with the DoD's premium price tag attached to it, well, it might be bomb-proof, but guys, it's still just a 2 MOA red dot. Examples like this are in just about every facet of building a rifle. The premium gear exists for a reason, and that gear does have a place. Ultimately, only you know if the bomb-proof red dot optic with an insane warranty is something that you have the cash for. And by all means, if you do, go ahead and buy it. I'm not your dad.
You're not my dad!
It becomes a real problem, though, for you when upgrading your rifle at the cost of actually getting out to the range to train with your rifle. This might be why the guy with a $700 rifle is outpacing Gas Guy. For the average shooter, a stock rifle or one that you built on a budget is going to be far more accurate than you can be for a very long time. This is because modern machining has made excellent firearms and firearms equipment more and more inexpensive to manufacture over the years, and you can squeeze a lot of value out of your dollar in today's gun market. Let's get to the rifle. We're starting with a super budget-friendly, lightly upgraded Radical Firearms AR-15. Last week, we did a series with the same rifle where I showed you some super budget-friendly ways you could upgrade it, or really any excellent poverty pony, to make it a respectable range gun capable of getting you to the next level in your training. On the upper, That includes the 16-inch barrel with a 1-to-7 twist and a gas system with a slightly enhanced birdcage muzzle device, as well as Radical's mil-spec bolt carrier group and charging handle. Initially, we upgraded this rifle's upper by adding an Acuity mounting point for the sling, a BCM gunfighter forward grip, and a still-to-be-announced 1X prism optic that we've been doing some research and development on here at AT3 Tactical. On the lower receiver, we have the B5 stock and grip, a standard mil-spec buffer system, and the Battle Arms Development Enhanced trigger that we swapped out to improve the trigger that came stock with the Radical platform. All in, including the cost of the base rifle and the WML we got on TacSwap for $60, we're in for around $720, depending on the deals you're able to find when you're doing the build. This past week, CJ and I went out to the range with our camera operator, Sam, and we ran around 500 rounds of ammunition through this specific firearm. We encountered 0 stoppages or malfunctions, and we were able to hold a respectable 1 MOA grouping at 100 yards, which tells me this gun is a solid workhorse that's perfect for getting out to the range and improving your skill sets, and likely more than enough for getting out to do some light competition or to have on hand for any of the other reasons you might need an AR-15. Normally, on a rifle build, I'd call it quits here. This rifle does everything I would ever need it to do. Unfortunately for this rifle, I work in a warehouse stocked to the gills with gun parts and accessories, and I also have an FFL. Decided to let my inner gas guy loose today to choose violence. And we're definitely going to be building a rifle that will probably end up in some screenshots in a Facebook group later. Hyper expensive parts in rifles usually come down to 3 things. There's the name brand, the aesthetic of the gear, and then government pricing and engineering. Brands like Geissele and Daniel Defense charge for their reputation and the quality that they bring to the table. They also offer extensive and outstanding warranties and are giving you a rifle with just about everything you could ever want right out of the box. These name brands specialize in high-end consumer firearms and target enthusiasts specifically by putting together the best rifles possible. For some, that brand aesthetic and clout matters way more than the quality of the rifle or accessories they're receiving for their cash. Last, and guys, this is going to be one that's an uncomfortable truth for some people. Sometimes the civilian market isn't even in the equation for the manufacturer. It's more profitable to sell to 3-letter agencies out there because you can secure an 8-figure sales contract over the course of several years from your engineering and prototyping alone. Then you can set the price as high as you want, and Uncle Sam is the one that's going to be cutting the check for your gear. Sometimes, dudes, the consumer market just doesn't matter to these companies. Enough talking, let's put all of this onto a rifle. Okay, so we are $7,032.16 deep into this build if you include the tax stamp for the Surefire RC3 we've attached to the end of the barrel here. Brings the total cost of the rifle up to $7,432.16. My inner gas guy spared no expense when building this because I wanted to show you just how far down the rabbit hole we can go with any rifle before we take it past the point of absurdity. Before we get too much deeper into seeing if this rifle is truly $6,700 better than the original version, let's break down the build. Let's start at the lower receiver and work our way out from there. First things first, we replaced every single pin, spring, and detent in this rifle with a Geissele Ultra Duty lower parts kit. That also includes changing out our safety from the original mag pull safety, upgrading our mag release, and changing out the retaining pins just to add a little bit more durability and drip to the overall aesthetic of the rifle. Following that, we replaced the $65 Battle Arms Development trigger with a Geissele high-speed national match 4-pound 2-stage trigger, and then worked our way down to adding a Fortis Torque skeletonized grip. Working our way back from there, we replaced the buffer spring with a JP Enterprises Gen 2 silent captured spring and replaced the entire B5 stock system with a Fortis lever action to remove any negative thoughts whatsoever about our Poverty Ponies Radical Firearms roll mark. Moving to the upper receiver, we started with an ultra lightweight titanium bolt carrier group from Battle Arms Development and replaced our R&D optic with a 4X Trijicon ACOG so we can better utilize the bind and aiming concept. For a backup optic, we stuck with the Trijicon and put an RMR in the piggyback position so that I can have something to easily shoot through when I finally get those PBS 31s. Moving forward, we've got a BCM gunfighter rail system and forward grip covering a 16-inch chrome-lined Geissele barrel with an Odinworks low-profile gas block and a melanite gas tube to ensure that we're keeping the entire rifle extra uniform and drippy. Keeping in line with my dreams of one day owning night vision, I've added in Mini Scout Pro IR from Surefire and a Holosun LE117 IR laser because even my inner gas guy doesn't have L3 Harris money. The cherry on top for this build is the Surefire War Comp and RC3 suppressor, which brings the entire rifle together into one complete build. The price difference between our original build and this current setup is $6,712.16. At 40 cents a round, that's 16,780 rounds of 5.56 our new shooter could have purchased to improve their skills. Our new shooter also could have attended 10 or more professional training events from some of the best firearm instructors in the entire shooting space. For just a little bit more perspective, an associate's degree in gunsmithing from an accredited program would have only cost our new shooter on average an additional $3,300, which even outpaces the value added from learning to install the additional parts and accessories. Don't get me wrong here, guys. I'm not saying that there's no place for expensive upgrades on rifles. Eventually, you may need to flatten out your recoil by drastically increasing the capabilities of your buffer system. You might need to maximize the efficacy of your trigger to really push the limitations of your barrel. At that stage in your shooting journey, though, you probably are going to find that instead of building up your budget-friendly rifle that you started with, it might make more sense to just buy a whole new higher-end build from one of the top brands like Geissele, BCM, Daniel Defense, the list goes on. Because these rifles are going to come with a lot of the more important features we manually added to this build, baked right into the DNA of the rifle. A $450 stock and buffer system to flatten out your recoil makes a lot more sense on a rifle where you don't also have to add in a $700 barrel and handguard. In a vacuum, any of the pieces on this build would be a great addition to a high-end purpose-built rifle. That said, we likely hit the point of diminishing returns on this specific build, which was intended for a new to intermediate shooter to learn the basics and fundamentals on, the second we started taking apart our $720 range build. We generally build rifles for a specific purpose. It's important to know the why behind a build when you start. Maybe you're building an ultra budget gun with the purpose of using it as a test bed for learning how to build rifles, or maybe it's a home defense gun or a carry gun or the rifle you're planning to grab in the event of aliens from outer space invading the planet tomorrow. The best way to beat gas guy and the law of diminishing returns is to know the why behind the build that you're working on and staying within the means and the purpose and owning your own individual skill set. Every build is going to be different and every person is going to have their own needs. We built this rifle on the table out specifically to show you how deep the gear acquisition rabbit hole can go. But consider this, if every dollar spent on an individual upgrade was instead invested in training and ammunition, where would your skills be a year from now? Are you building a rifle, a flex piece for the internet, or are you building an excuse?